Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, we're going to be looking at how to uniquely style individual single listing blocks for MyListing using nothing more than CSS. So whether you're doing it by hand, which is what we're going to do in this video, or using a plugin like say CSS Hero, or something like that, doesn't really matter because you still need to apply the unique IDs to the blocks to be able to style them no matter how you go about it. So that's what we're going to cover in this video, and just to give you a little inspiration on how you can customize your listings to look a little bit different. And it can be unique to each listing type, unique to each tab, all the way down to the block. There is just really, your imagination is the only limitation here. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. I just totally revamped this guide that we're looking at here on my screen. This is what I'm going to be following along with. I'll pull this over to my other screen here, but you can go grab the code snippets that you're going to see in this video from that guide. Okay. First up, we will design what we see here on my screen, which is truly unique in that this is actually a single column layout in a single listing, with the top two blocks here split by, showing 50%. So without the CSS, it would just be like this third box here that just stretches all the way across the screen. So this is a unique way of having a single column layout, but splitting certain blocks into different sizes. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at that. First, let's look at the listing type and see how it's constructed. For that, we go to single page, content and tabs. We're going to go into this dual blocks tab. You can call your tabs whatever you want. You probably know that. I've got 3 text blocks added here. Again, single column layout right here. So these are all the same fields, same blocks, just the custom text area fields and then text area blocks here. Where the magic happens, aside from the CSS, is assigning the block ID. So that's this custom block ID field right here. And we have a custom block ID of solid background block. You can call this anything you want. It just has to be unique. And that's really the only rule there. Name it in a way that makes sense to you guys. Okay. So that's the same block ID we're going to use for both of these blocks, because we want that same styling to apply to both of those. Unique styling gets applied again to text this bottom box, this one right here that you see across the bottom. Okay. And for that, I just put a different block ID on that so we can style that one differently. All right, so now let's check out the CSS for that. I use WP Codebox for this. If you've watched any of my videos that talk about adding custom code to your site, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of WP Codebox. Can't imagine using anything else. And yeah, so let's go ahead and see what we've got here. I've got the first half of this code snippet up here set up for this first example we're looking at, which is these 2 boxes side by side and a unique color to those. All right. As we see here in the beginning of the code snippet, we see that ID being called. IDs are called by the pound symbol. So that's why you see the pound symbol before the ID. All right. The main things we're going to concern ourselves with here are the width. So we want to get this. We want to split those blocks into, so they go side by side. And to do that, we need to make them 50% width. So their 2 are able to stretch across that one line there. Okay. So that's how that's done, right? The next one we go down to is the background color. So we see that this is variable accent. So if you pull the code snippet from the guide, it's going to automatically pull your accent color that you specify in theme options. Mine is yellow, which is why these boxes right here are yellow. Okay. Moving on down, we've got some styling for the icon, the title, and the content. It's all white. So that's just making the icon here, the title, and the text white in those boxes. You can adjust the code snippet to be whatever it is that you want for those. All right, so that's really it. That's how it's done. So now let's say you want to make this red, these boxes red. You just jump in here into the code snippet and change it to red. Save our code snippet and refresh. There we go. So that how that's done. If you want to set a unique color for one of those yellow boxes, let's put it back to yellow. Let's put it back to the way we had it, in other words. Now, what if we wanted to make this left one yellow, but this right one red. We'll make that one red. So we'll go back into our listing type, back into content, single page, content tabs, go back into where those text box blocks are. It's a mouthful. And we want to target the second one because that's the one that's going to appear on the right. So first one's left, second one's right. Let's go in here. Let's just give this a unique ID. Let's change it to, we'll call it block 2. All right. Save our changes. Go back into our CSS. Now for block 2, let's just copy this, paste that in, and now instead of solid background block, we want to put a 2 on this. Remember, we changed the ID to 2. All right, and we want to change the color to red. All right, save our changes, refresh, boom. Tons of customization you can do. You can see that one issue is that by doing that, we now have this on one line instead of breaking up 50%. So how do we then address that? What you can do is there's a lot of ways you can do it, a few ways you can do it. So what we're going to do here is, you see here where we're splitting these blocks by 50%, how we did that before. What you can do is just put a comma after one of those, and drop in the other. So we're saying we want to target the ID of solid background block and then block 2. All right, so save that. There we go. So that is how that is done. And you'll see that the text is different and the icon color is different. So it's the same principle. You just need to keep adding these in. Now you can do individual sections. Let me show you what I mean by that. But this is better for, just manageability and performance and things of that nature, is to not do them in individual sections. But what you could do is you could say, let's just take this out. What you could do is just have this whole section up here just be for that one block that appears on the left. But again, you're going to have all kinds of redundant code, so I don't recommend that. But you could. So let's just go here, copy all of that, paste it in, and then just make your changes. Append the number 2 to all of these. Again, last time, I do not recommend you do it this way, because unless you're having some kind of crazy unique styling that you have to do this. But this is just doubling code unnecessarily, okay? So we've duplicated our code. Now we want, for this one, we want, again, make that one red, okay? Now, when I refresh my screen, everything should be identical except for the block color. Should be just as you see here, except for this red block will now have the matching white color for everything. There we go. So that's how that's done. So it's not the end of the world that you have this much duplication in code. It's just best general practice not to do this too much. But if that helps you, make this happen, then go for it. Okay. If you're using WP Codebox, then this is going to be, you can set this up in a very optimal way already by only applying this code to your listing. So it keeps the performance thing, to being a non-issue really. But anyway, best practices again would be to keep it all up here as much as you can. So what are the things that are similar that we don't mind there being overlap? So let's look at that. We want to put a comma. Oops. Let's put a comma here. I don't know why it's doing that. There we go. So this one's fine. We don't mind that. Again, it's block 2. We want that margin top to apply to both. So that's fine. So you're just going to keep finding those things. So let's copy this here. We want the 50% to apply to both of those, right? So we can add that. Okay, so that's going to apply to both blocks. Do we want both intersections to be our variable accent color? No, that's where we want some uniqueness to be in there. Okay, so let's keep moving down. Do we want the icon to be white for both? Yes, we do. So let's just put a comma here at the end. You got to put it at the end of the whole declaration. Okay, and then let's copy this and paste it in. Remember, add the 2 after it so it knows to target those. And moving on down, do we want the title to be white and the content to be white? Yeah, we do. So let's just copy this. Now we can't because the declaration is different on this. I'm going to put a comma again. Put a comma on this one too. I'm just going to drop in. So what that comma does is it basically says, hey, this declaration and then the one below it, we want to apply that to as well. You know, once you stop putting a comma in it, that's when it stops. Okay, so that's why there's no comma right here, because we're saying, okay, let's stop. We don't need to continue on there. Okay, going a little bit outside of what this video is all about, but hey, don't mind the education part at all. So, okay, so what we're saying here again is a recap. This is the optimal way to do this code. There's no redundancy. So again, we've applied what is the same, what we want to apply to both of those boxes. We've done that with the comma and then the other declaration line there. What is different is this. Okay, so what you can do is we can copy this, paste that in. Remember, block 2, we want this to be unique, so we're going to put a 2 at the end of this one, and then we're going to change the background color of this. Okay? So now the only difference out of all of this is we're saying that the background is going to be red on that box on the right. So let's see what we got. Boom, there we go. Now you want to change that to purple. Let's go back in here. Let's change that to some funky purple color. There we go. Save, refresh, boom, there we go. Now you can also get creative if you want to change, say, the percentage. So what do we want to be different now? We want the percentages to be different. So we go in here, copy this. Remember, take out, because we want this to be unique. We don't want that comma in there anymore. We just want this to apply to the block on the left and this one to apply to the block on the right, okay? All right, there we go. So now let's say we want the block on the left to be 70% and the block on the right to be 30%. Okay, that should get it done. There we go. And you got a little bit more work to do because of, the padding and margins and whatnot, but really, really cool stuff, right? But you can get really, really creative. You could stack 3 boxes across there if you want it very easily. You can a lot of really cool stuff you can do with some very, very simple CSS. All right, let's look at one more example here. Contact forms. So this is a dark contact form. Everything you see inside this yellow border is actually coming from the form itself. So I've customized that form template. This is using Elementor Pro forms. It's the same if you're using Contact Form 7. It's just, I always recommend you use Elementor Pro instead of Contact Form 7. And I've got a guide on how to set that up. But what we're looking at here specifically in this video is this border. What if you want to, put like a unique border around this? So how would we do that? Back in our listing type, I'm going to assume you have the field you need. If you use Elementor Pro forms, you don't need a field at all for the contact email. But you can go check out the replace Contact Form 7 guide for why that is. But I'm going to assume you've got the field set up if you need it, in content and tabs. We've got created a content form tab. And again, using Elementor Pro, so I've dropped in my form shortcode here. So that's how that's set up. Now, again, we're looking at a custom block ID. I've assigned one called contact form block. Again, call it whatever you want. So that is set up. And then back in WP Code box, let's scroll down here. And where did I put my contact form? This one's a really simple one. Here we go. This is the ID again, contact form block. We've got a background applying our accent colors set in our theme options. And then we've got some padding here that was required to make it look the way that it does. MyListing does a little funky thing with padding on some of these blocks, and you just gotta kind of finagle it a little bit. That's why you'll see here that padding on one of these padding values is less than what the others are. That's why, it's to correct that. And then a little border radius there. Okay, so that's all that was needed to make this happen. And then if you want to change that to red, just go in here to the background, set it to red, and save our changes. There we go. Lots of crazy, crazy stuff you can do. If you want to get crazy with the padding, you can do that. If you want to get super wild with the border radius, you can do that. The sky's the limit now that you've got. Sky's the limit now that you've got the block ID set up and all of that sort of thing. Do whatever you want. See the border radius change there. I'm trying to think what else I could show you here. Let me go back to my guide and make sure Didn't miss anything. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to show you, was just how easy this was. And like I said, if you got CSS Hero, you still go, or another plugin that applies CSS to the front end of your website, just using like a front end tool rather than doing CSS by hand, you still get these block IDs in there. And that way, let's get these back to where they were real quick, and then I'll show you. All right, so that should be good. Let's refresh. So when you get those block IDs in there, then you use it, like I said, if you use like CSS Hero, when CSS Hero or similar goes in here to look at these areas, it's going to do the same thing as what I'm doing here essentially. And that's inspecting it and looking for the IDs or the classes and how all of that has changed. So as we see here, if you see on my screen, see where it says div and then a pound sign and then contact form block. That is what I assigned to it as the ID. That's how it knows. That's how those tools know to assign that. Okay, so whether you're doing this from the front end, you're by hand, like I said, or using a tool, that's how it's done. You got to set those unique values in there. And another thing, this little sidebar, and then I'll get you out of here. Once you have that ID there, what if you want to hide it based on whether a user's logged in or logged out? Then you can absolutely do that. I've got a code snippet out there for that as well. Getting those IDs or those classes in there allows you to do a lot of cool things, not just with design, but visibility based on the role or whatever. Okay. All right, guys, I hope this was useful. Last thing I want to say here is that was just a quick guide that I did in the past for when I was helping a client do some unique blocks for their site. If there's anything that you want me to try to do, just jump in chat, the chat widget on the club website, drop me a note and just do a mock-up for me and tell me what you would like to see. And if it's something I can pull off, I will get you the code for free. Not a problem, because then I can share it with everybody else. If you're in the club community, you can ask in there, have people look at some design mock-ups so we can all look at them together and kind of work through those. If you're obviously a client of mine, and you're watching this video, you see what's possible, just let me know, create a task for me, and I'll take care of it for you. But yeah, hope this was useful, and I will catch you in the next video, guys.